Good morning, gearheads. Welcome to Speed City. It's a beautiful morning, although I wouldn't know it because it's dark outside. It's early morning here, but hope for wherever you're tuning in, you are ready for some Formula One action. We've got the Singapore Grand Prix for 2025, always a special date on the calendar. This is a very different race than any other I know of. It's under the lights, it's under the humidity, it's right at the equator. And Singapore is a city that once Formula One comes to town, the entire city and the entire island is aware of it and a part of it. It's been that way since, 2008? And it was one of the first, like Malaysia, to get involved in Formula One in Asia. And it has been, quite frankly, a huge event for both Singapore and Asia, putting it on the map. I think a lot of people were surprised when Singapore arrived, just how sophisticated it was for the world's audience to tune in and see Singapore for the first time. I'm Jonathan Green, and alongside me is Bob Varsha, as always. Bob, that's a long intro to say Singapore is different, but it is different in every way, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely is. Very unique country, tiny, of course, city on an island. And you're right, it's a spectacular venue, as people will see when they tune in the race in an hour or so. Spectacular architecture, really a very forward-looking country, home of lots of international corporations. And it was the very first Formula One racetrack to be illuminated. And lots of folks said it couldn't be done, but they did it. And the specs of that lighting of the racetrack are pretty extraordinary. Just thousands of lights, all very carefully pointed in a direction where they won't blind the drivers. And as you say, it goes all the way back to 2008. Anybody out there remember Crashgate?
I was at the event.
2008. Yeah, absolutely. That led to a lot of folks' trolleys getting derailed. But yeah, it's a great town. I see Eddie Cheever every now and then. He has been there, and he says, it's got to be a bucket list item. It's just such a spectacular place.
Yeah, we did. I was doing Formula BMW that year, funnily enough, and Daniel Ricciardo and Earl Bamble were involved in the championship at the time, just to put it on. But 8 laps to go, I left to try to avoid the rush, and then it happened. Yes, Piquet crashed the car, in fact, into the grandstand that I was inside of, because that's where our little pit was. Yeah, big story, and changed Formula One history in many ways. But ironically, as much as things change, they don't, because Flavio's back and so are all the players. But anyway, that's the history. But let's get back to today. I think one of the hardest things, and I want to bring this up, I was thinking about this last night, it must be very hard for the drivers. We'll experience this in Las Vegas, Bob, but to try to get onto a schedule, you're going to bed. I mean, the race is at night, so you're going to bed during the day, almost. It's a time schedule you never really get on once you're there. You kind of arrive, hopefully acclimatized, but the idea is to effectively work at night. That's the whole point. And so everybody, mechanics, drivers, everybody involved has got to work on this strange schedule. So it's everybody wandering around in the dusk, as it were.
Yeah, it's really, and a lot of folks are grateful for it because it's a night race, so they can stay on European time.
That's right.
Of course, that involves, sleeping into midday and getting up and eating breakfast when normally you'd be eating lunch. Yeah, it's a lot of really strange working environments for the teams. And some of those teams have been working really hard this weekend, rebuilding race cars after visiting the wall at speed. I can't recall another Singapore Grand Prix where we've seen as much wall contact as we have this year. Not always, devastatingly so, although Liam Lawson has crashed heavily twice. And there have been some other incidents, but folks are getting after it, I guess, is the only explanation. People are trying hard, and that shows when they step over that very thin line between celebration and disaster.
Yeah, I wonder if it's coming off Baku, because very similar in terms of confines, if you will.
Yes.
They just risked it all. We saw some amazing moments at Baku where people were scraping walls and getting into trouble. And we saw some of it yesterday. I mean, George Russell, even the man who took pole position with a 129.158 yesterday, smashed against the wall, but somehow survived. The commentators were saying, he must have done this, he must have broken that, he must have done this, but he waddled on, as it were, and defeated Max Verstappen, who, by the way, has never won this race. It's the only race he hasn't won. He's never been pole at this race, but boy, he was only 2/10 off, and I think that's going to be one heck of a battle we see there, the front row being George Russell and Max Verstappen. Any thoughts on just qualifying and what happened?
Well, it's worth remembering that George Russell and Max Verstappen are not necessarily on each other's Christmas card list.
Nah.
And that's a feud that has been boiling away for some time. And then Lando Norris, who is not having a great weekend by his standards for McLaren, in Max's view, balked him when Max was putting in his final push lap. And there's a lot of tittering and double entendre when the drivers were being interviewed, and Max said, well, I didn't get to pole because somebody got in my way, and I'm not naming names. And he looks over at Oscar Piastri, who is Lando Norris's teammate, and we will not forget, says Max. But the guys all seem to be in pretty good humor. Another thing to remember about this weekend is this is a heat hazard race, the first one of those we've seen declared in Formula One history. That means that there is a cool suit system in the car that the drivers can use if they choose to. If they don't, they have to put ballast in the car. There's a lot of differing stories about just how effective those cool suits are. I mean, they go back to old codgers like you and me in sports cars at places like Le Mans. It gets hot in these race cars. I'd like to know how many drivers are going to attempt to use them. Some drivers say, they only work for a half hour or so in this, 2-hour window. And that can be bad, because if your cool suit's not working and you're wearing it, now suddenly, you're getting parboiled. So it's going to be interesting from a lot of perspectives.
Yeah, suddenly you become like a lobster. Yeah, Jensen Button was talking about this. Is he said he said it's great when it works because you pump fresh cold water around you. It's not great when it doesn't work because you get red hot water pumped around you and you are like a lobster. Yeah. I want to make a point that you made though. Jenny Gow was talking about this sort of Verstappen thing of being sort of caught out by Lando Norris. And, the truth is, modern Formula One cars, especially this iteration, he was 5 corners ahead of Verstappen, but he still got the wash, if you will, from the car. So the point is, they were talking on Checkered Flag on the BBC saying, where can you get out of the way of a driver? It's impossible in this modern iteration. It's not like you're right behind the guy and he's blocking you. He'd already gone, so he had no idea, especially at a track like this, that he was potentially impeding Verstappen. And frankly, he wasn't. So I do think it's a little bit rich. Now, does he have a gripe that there was a car in front on his road that affected his air? Yeah, but that's got to be the same for everybody, right?
Yeah, right. That's the way it is in Singapore and several other places as well. It's one of those funny, very human idiosyncrasies. I want this guy to be just the right distance in front of me so I can pick up a toe from him. And then I want him to get out of my way at just the right moment so that I don't lose any speed slashing into these corners. So, you can't please everybody.
Well, listen, there's going to be a few people tuning in that don't know what happened yesterday in qualifying. George Russell got a surprise pole position for Mercedes. I think it even surprised him. Max Verstappen, again, kind of a surprise because we thought it was the McLaren-only game, but it's far from. Got the front row start alongside him. Then row 2 sees Oscar Piastri, who leads the championship by 25 points. Then Kimi Antonelli, who was very disappointed, knowing both that his teammate was faster and also that he had a car capable of pole. And then comes Lando Norris in 5th position. A lot of work to do for the would-be world champion, and he's got to make some inroads. He made some inroads in Baku, but it wasn't enough. Then come the 2 Ferraris, Lewis Hamilton finally out-qualifying Charles Leclerc in 6th and 7th, Isaac Hadjar, Ollie Behrman 9th, and Fernando Alonso making the top 10. So quite a nice smorgasbord for the top 10. Yeah. I know you're going to do the grid later, but I wanted to draw people's attention to what we've got in the top 10, because it's pretty much everybody of a different ilk, right?
Yeah, and I think that was expected coming in, and that's the way qualifying eventually formed up. You know, the guys who are typically not a threat to the top 10 went out in Q1 and Q2. So you basically had all the big hitters in that final push for pole. And I thought it was really interesting. Kimi Antonelli for Mercedes got out of the car and was distraught.
Yeah.
He lost a very quick lap to a track limits violation. And that little cocky rookie, all of 20 years age, said, I could have had the pole. I could have been a champion. I could have, you know, this, that, and the other thing. So good on him. But I just thought that was kind of amusing that that Kimi was annoyed that he didn't have a clean shot at pole because he thought he could have done it.
Well, how about this? Bob, you agree with me that it was a surprise to see Russell on the pole and Verstappen on the front row, given that it's not been a good Red Bull circuit over the years. But what about McLaren, 3rd and 5th? And what about Ferrari, 6th and 7th? What's your take on what happened to our, if you like, dominant championship leaders?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, as you say, I think everybody was looking to McLaren and then Ferrari to dominate the speed charts this weekend, but it just hasn't happened that way. Lewis, early on Friday, wound up free practice 2, I think. He was quick, but you know, we see it all the time. People look quick when it doesn't matter so much, and then you know, when the chips are down, they suddenly, you know, lose that edge. We see it from Aston Martin all the time, but we don't expect it from the likes of McLaren, who have had it all their own way this year. So I'm not sure quite what is going on. Maybe the drivers found out that the team boss, Zach Brown, made $50 million last year as the team CEO, and their noses are out of joint, but I kind of doubt that. They can clinch their 2nd consecutive constructors title and their 10th overall and give Zach another $50 million packet at the end of the year. But Ferrari, boy, your guess is as good as mine. They seem to be quick enough when it doesn't matter. But you know, when the chips are down, it just doesn't seem to come together for them, and they drift out of the top 2 rows, let's say.
Yeah, there was an interesting interview with Lewis Hamilton yesterday from Jenny Gow. She did a very good job, actually, and that's Jenny's real forte, is to get real personal. She knows them well, and she got Lewis Hamilton to open up a little bit and say, yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a testing situation now for them. Everything they're doing now is learning for 26, and they've kind of given up the ghost. I can hear that the dulcet tones of Mr. Medland. I've already seen him on my TV. Is that you, Christopher?
It is. Sorry that you had to see me on your TV. Was that
you were talking to Mr. Piastri? I didn't see you, but I could hear your
yes. I spoke to Mr.
Beardo
Piastri. I spoke to Mr. Russell.
Yep,
and I spoke to Mr. Norris as well.
Well, tell us all. Tell us what they said.
3 of them. Yeah, they were pretty upbeat, actually. Lando was admitting that maybe McLaren just haven't been quite quick enough this weekend and not had enough grip. There was nothing else really missing, nothing else wrong with the car other than just lacking that bit of performance. Oscar kind of, I think, agreeing, and that made him happier with starting from P3, enjoying the support he's got at this place. Lots of Australians that come to Singapore for the Grand Prix. So a number of OP81 T-shirts out there. And so he was reveling in that and said he's not sure how he's going to approach the start yet behind Russell and Verstappen. He said, it depends how good my launch is. Mm-hmm. So if he gets a good launch, he says, I'll go for it. I'll get involved. I'll go and scrap with them. But if he doesn't, he's like, I'll sit back and let them, fight it out and pick up the pieces. So he's got a bit of a balancing act to really play because, high risk, high reward in that fight. But Russell, I asked him, I was like, how crucial is this start going to be up against Max? And he said, yes, very crucial, but there's also a lot of other variables that could really come to the fore here. One of them was potential rain, and he was carrying an umbrella, not to shield himself from the sun, but to shield himself from any rain that might fall. And it did on the driver parade, and then again for another half an hour afterwards. So we're now, 45 minutes from lights out, and the ground is wet. So the track will be wet too, I think, when they open the pit lane, and everyone will head out on intermediate tyres. Probably going to dry up enough, I think, by the race start, unless we get more rain. But that's the second shower we've had today. We had one 2.5 hours earlier during the F1 Academy race. At the end of that race, it really spiced things up. And then after that 2.5 hour gap, we had the second downpour on the driver parade. If we go with that time gap and we get another shower in 2.5 hours, that'll be smack bang in the middle of the race at 9 o'clock local time, at 1 hour into the race. So, yeah, it's a little bit spicy with these conditions.
Well, listen, we're going to take a short break, Chris, but I do want to come back to you and to Bob to get an answer to one of the questions that's on my mind that I was learning about over the weekend, was the pit lane speed and whether it'll make a difference. So we'll take a short break here on Speed City. Join us after this. Singapore coming up. So, Chris, 45%, I think, was the percentage of potential rain. What are your thoughts now you've seen some and now it's drying?
I'd actually call it 50-50 now.
Ooh.
Because it doesn't feel like it's drying that quickly.
Right.
Because of the humidity, it kind of keeps it moist in a strange way. So, yeah, the surface here in the paddock is still properly wet. The pit lane's going to open in about less than 5 minutes, I think. So I'd be certain that drivers will be on intermediates for that. But they'll probably want to tiptoe around because they want to keep them fresh in case they need them in the race. And, yeah, the tricky bit now is it's gone dark completely, pitch black, floodlights all taken over. So you can't actually see the sky in that sense. You can't work out a cloud's coming in or not. But we could see it coming for the driver parade. So, yeah, I'd go 50-50. The fact that we had 2 showers, it wasn't that one came and burst and then everything cleared up. It makes me think there's a good chance.
Yeah, and the thing is, as you well know, the humidity is such that when it does rain in a humid place like Singapore, it tends not to just dry. I'm watching the TV feed right now with Russell walking in. I tell you what, Hamilton and Antonelli seem to be good mates. It's good. It's good to see. Got a great one here from Mike Bull saying, "Good morning. It's great to be here, awake, alone, and out in my man cave watching the world wake with a light rain and F1's best journalist live. Speed City. I love it." Thanks, Mike.
Checks in the post, Mike.
Yeah, checks in the post. Has anything? I alluded to it before the break, Chris. But I was listening to Checkered Flag last night, and they were talking about the pit lane speed limit has been upped. I think to 80k. Will it make a difference? Could it mean that there would be 2 stops rather than the traditional 1 or not?
Yeah, it certainly could. I mean, do you want to get into this? We're still on the break, aren't we? Yeah. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah.
But yes.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back. Yes, George Russell, the fastest man in Singapore right now, and a bit of a surprise pole position, but he'll take it, and it was on merit. There was no question about it. He drove the wheels off that thing yesterday. You're listening to Speed City. It's Singapore Grand Prix. We were just talking before the break about a 50-50, according to Chris Medland, chance of rain. There's been some already in the F1 Academy race, and it's wet at the moment. Chris, I want to add a little bit more spice that I kind of alluded to before the break, and that's they've upped the speed in the pit lane to 80k during coming into the pits. Will it make a difference, and could it mean that maybe somebody thinks, "Oh, I'll do 2 stops because I can be quicker in and out"?
Absolutely, yes. If you think about it, it was 60k up to 80k. That's a 33% increase. I look at it that way rather than 25 the other way. And it really does have an impact. We were looking at pit lane loss time previously of about 28.5 seconds if you were making your stop under green flag conditions. Well, now we're looking at more like 22 seconds And that's much more near the normal range that we get at a normal F1 track. Because this is a city circuit and it's a very tight pit lane, that's one of the reasons why we used to have the lower pit lane speed limit. There's not a lot of space if two drivers come out of the pits at the same time. We've even seen the impact of that, haven't we, this weekend when Charles Leclerc was released from his garage into the path of Lando Norris and they had a little bit of contact. But I actually think that what that's done is it's not only in isolation that one pit stop is going to be 6.5 seconds quicker, but if you think about making a two-stop, that's where the real gain is. Previously, a two-stop would take you nearly a minute of race time in total. So now you're looking over 12 seconds faster to make that strategy work. That makes it much more viable. So we could see it. We could also then see more people dive into the pits anyway under safety car conditions, but not guaranteed when there's not that long to run in a race, given how tough it is to overtake here. But now, only 11 seconds you'd lose in race time to make a pit stop under safety car conditions here because of where the pit entry and pit exit is and the speed limit being increased. So I think, guarantee if there's a safety car, everyone piles in, or pretty much everyone, unless you're on the totally wrong tyre to pit at that moment. So it definitely will open up more strategic opportunities. Add in the rain that we've had and could get later as well. And I think we could avoid a boring one stop here today. I'm saying could because I don't want to over egg the pudding and then look like an idiot afterwards because track position is still crucial. But as the cars head out now on track, doing their recce laps and they've left the pit lane, they're doing their laps to the grid. It's loads of standing, well, not loads of standing water, but enough still that there's spray and we've got cars on intermediate tyres kicking up that spray. So they'll hope that this does dry enough because the pit lane closes again at hour. So they get basically a 10-minute window. I think it's actually 12 minutes in total to do these in and out laps and then go to the grid. By the time they get to the grid, this track will still be wet. Yeah. Then they're going to be trying to think, well, will it be wet when we start the race? Will it have dried enough? We don't know. We're not running around on it to find out.
I want to bring Bob in here. And again, Chris, you mentioned it, but, pole position, very important here. It is hard to overtake. It is a street circuit. And while there is some long straights, that doesn't mean that you're overtaking any times soon. What are your thoughts on what you've heard from Chris?
Well, I think Chris is absolutely right. And the one factor that could play in there is the weather. If it rains hard, people are going to be forced to make additional pit stops. I'm watching the pictures from the feed, and it looks like there's actually small rooster tails being kicked up by the cars as they make their way around. So that track's wetter than I thought. And this is going to be interesting.
Well, I tell you what, I've got the latest weather report, Chris. You'll appreciate this. I know you're there in Singapore, but T&W living in Udon, Thailand, says monsoon season, and we've had 3 big ones this year. So there you go. So there's a local giving you the weather report there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I landed in one of those, to be honest. It was an unexpected big old thunderstorm that hit, and it was one of those big enough, because of course they're used to it in this region. Yeah. It's big enough that, one, it was spectacular flying through it and then coming into land. But 2, you had to wait longer for your baggage because baggage handlers couldn't go out in the weather.
It was so wet,
So they had to pick their moments then with the lightning and stuff. So it delayed things a little bit, but that told me that was slightly unexpected. I don't know if we'll get something that heavy tonight, but saying that thunderstorm happened at 8 p.m. on Wednesday evening when I landed. Well, this race starts at 8 p.m. So there's every chance that something could happen in that time. I've just seen a replay of Carlos Sainz having a big lock-up, showing how slippery it is out there in these conditions, even on a set of intermediate tyres. So it will be tricky. And you're right to look at the weather updates that we're going to get, actually, from some of our listeners, and maybe look at any weather radars you can. I'll be doing the same through the race because I was saying it during the break, but for anyone who might not have heard that, right now we are under full darkness. The floodlights are taken over. It's pitch black above us. So you can't actually see if there's clouds up there or not.
Right,
I don't know if it's clear. There's so much light pollution to tell you if it's clear or not. So when we saw the clouds rolling in for the driver parade and the first rain we had about, an hour and a half ago, then at that point, you knew it was coming. Now, we don't. So I could be stood here right now, and maybe if I could see more, I'd be saying, there's no chance of any more rain. Or it might be about to hit me. I can't tell. I like that uncertainty.
Yeah, no question.
You need radar.
Yeah, and to be honest, that leads me nicely to talk about strategy. You've got McLaren in third and fifth. That surely leads to some sort of strategy. And likewise, Mercedes first and fourth. I'm going to leave Max out of the equation because he's kind of a lone wolf. But how do you see it if you were a team manager of one of those two big teams, McLaren or Mercedes, in terms of, and potentially Ferrari, in terms of how you play everything you've said, which is potentially weather, potentially 62 laps where there may or may not be a safety car, but you can kind of almost think that there would be. I'll throw in a little bit of spice that Lando may be starting fifth, but Lewis Hamilton has won from there back in 2018. Strategy, what do you think, Chris?
So I think you go with the obvious medium running onto the hard with your front car. I think you might even go with similar with your second car, because you could go more aggressive and go with a soft at the start. But I think you just be ready to pivot. And I think with the second car, you might bring them in early because you start to create some pit stop gaps as well. You want some pit stop windows to get into. So you can kind of almost play that game with the second car in a row to really bust things open. In the past, we've seen a lead car holding back others, haven't we? Carlos Sainz did it really impressively two years ago, just trying to keep everyone close. Maybe George Russell would do that today, but I wonder if he would, because both cars are at the front. They might give something a bit different in that sense. And Ferrari, though, like you're right, they're both there, but they're both on the back foot. They're both behind the two Mercedes and two McLarens. So they'd have to just try something different, but that's going to be dependent on what's happening further back behind them. So I think they're going to have to kind of hope for a well-timed safety car to do something, whether that means you do stay out. This is another thing, as I just said about a safety car, short pit stop loss time, get in and get fresh tyres on. If you don't take that chance and you stay out and you gain track position, one safety car can easily breed another. And if you then get another one when you've gained that track position, up you go through the order. So, it's all about rolling the dice here at this track. And I think by having two cars at the front, you can really gamble with one of them and see if it pays off or not.
Chris, I've got another question for you. There's been, in fact, actually, Bob might just raise something. He raised something to be before the show, but I'd like to talk about Red Bull a little bit. Big day for Lawson. He's been thrown a bone by the fact that he crashed twice during practices, but managed still to get into, I think, the top 14. But now with Williams starting at the back or from pit lane, he moves up a little bit. And then Tsunoda also not qualifying well. Is there talk of what's going on at Red Bull and how important this race is?
A little bit, yeah. I actually had a sit down with Laurent Mekies pre-race. Managed to have a bit of time with him. It was an off-record kind of group scenario, but got to speak to him a little bit. He was saying about Yuki being someone that really, did take a step backwards yesterday. That momentum seemed to be with him. He seemed to be finding his feet a bit. His race pace was good in Baku. And then just out of nowhere, really, he didn't perform on Saturday when he had looked good in practice, even if the lap times weren't there. And he says, we look at every bit of data from every driver. It's not just about the raw lap time or the end result. It's about, is the potential performance in there or not? Are they finding where they could put it together and just not managing to? And for Yuki, there was a little bit of confidence that was happening at the initially, at least. But then that seems to have faded yesterday. For Liam, it was kind of similar, but it was that, he's made some mistakes, but he's still quick enough.
Yeah.
I do think that he just left too much on the table because he was slightly wary with the accidents he'd had. And he was trying to make sure that he didn't make another big mistake. He's got a chance, as you say today, to redeem himself. And Mekies knows what he's capable of, which does help.
Hey, Chris, Jonathan and I talked about this before coming on the air. I saw a wild internet posting, and I'm always very suspicious of internet postings.
He fishes in the wild, Big Bob.
Yeah, it's clickbait. But this particular one, and it was a fan site for Formula One, says it's done. Arvid Lindblad will be a Racing Bulls driver next year, and Hadjar will be on the Red Bull side with Max Verstappen, leaving one seat in the Red Bull fleet. Have you heard anything like that?
I haven't directly heard it confirmed yet. So I haven't heard it confirmed directly yet, but it does seem to be trending that way, partly with this talk about Alex Dunn. And the fact that Dunn would be looking for that 27 seat, as we're talking about, would mean then that clearly they're going to open up certain spaces that should allow movement elsewhere. And I just think realistically, we're looking at, Yuki's going to have to do something special to hold on to the seat he's got. I think it's unlikely that Yuki stays put. So with him out, that creates all that movement you just mentioned.
Right.
It all makes sense. It all feels like it's trending that way. But this is Red Bull. They actually don't need to rush anything. And if a driver does start performing again in the next few races, then they can go for it.
Good point. Well, you're listening to Chris Medland and Bob Varsha as we pontificate what's going to happen at the Singapore Grand Prix, which is starting very soon indeed. Stay with us. Stay tuned in. It's early morning, but we have got a doozy of a race coming to you from a night race, potential rain. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back on Speed City. Okay, then. Let's go see what they're saying on the internets. What are your thoughts, folks? Chris, you all good? You all sconced? You've sent. Just tell me what you've sent and what you haven't. I saw Dan Trowis has been a potential. Fine. Have you sent that or not?
Yes, I've sent it. It should be in Casey's inbox.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just going to apologise to someone who we were telling we could cross the pit lane who said we couldn't.
Do you want to introduce Dan after the break?
Oh, I lost you guys. Hit me again.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want to introduce Dan just so you can give us a bit of context?
Yeah. If you get a pause that's too long after that, when you come to me, it's because my signal's gone out.
Okay.
Because I'm now on the grid and it's busy. But as long as that holds up, more than happy to.
All right. In case, do you want me to read one of thy reads on the way back? Short or long? Doesn't matter. Okay. I'll go short. Okie dokie. Yeah. So what do we got? What do we got on the internet? Had too many Singapore slings. Well, I've been there. I've been to raffles and done that. It's so early, says Joe from Oyster Bay. Yeah, no, we're with you there, Joe. Monsoon season, we've had that already. We spoke about it, and there is a potential of rain. So, Joe, it's worth waking up for this one because it could have all sorts of shenanigans to it. Shenanigans.
By the way, I've never had a Singapore sling. I would like to make
Oh,
that clear.
come on, Christopher.
Never done it.
Go to raffles tonight.
Street beer at too late at night, but it'll be long closed by the time I'm finished, mate.
That's true. Standing by, we're going back to air.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back. Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. Welcome back to Speed City. We are getting ready for the Singapore Grand Prix. Right now, it's dry. I'm looking at the feed on ESPN, which is the purveyor here in the US of the Formula One races. It's not raining at the moment, but as we've heard from Chris Medland, who is on the ground, it has some potential to be 50-50, we think, right now, which always makes it interesting. We've been talking a little bit of strategy. There's a possibility with a faster pit lane entry and exit that we could see some of the one-stop traditional things change. But Singapore's one of those races where you have a plan and then it could go all out the window in lap 1 or lap 7 or whatever, because if you have a problem here at Singapore, it generally means you're going to have at least a virtual safety car, if not a full course safety car on track. So it's always one of those interesting races strategy-wise, and this is where we see the very best. I wonder if the bods at Red Bull come up with something for Max Verstappen, because he's never won this race. It's the only one on the calendar he hasn't. And he certainly was in the mood yesterday. I don't know if Chris is on the grid. I don't know if you can still hear me, Chris. Are you still there?
I am, and I can. I had to run away from Lance Stroll's Aston Martin firing up so I can hear you. But I'm going to give you another weather update, actually, after
Go
you
for
were
it.
saying all that. Seeing the track surface down here on the grid, you can see the patches as it's starting to dry. So it's kind of multicolored, where it's dark grey in some places, lighter grey in others, very dark grey on the very edge of the track. But one thing that might stay wet, I think, for the start of the race will be the curbs. So I think it'll be a slick tyre start. I think it'll dry out enough of that. We might get rain later, but look out for drivers dropping it on curbs because the curbs are still wet.
Yeah, good point. Listen, I know you've been beetling about, as they say in England, and that is not a swear word. But you have. Tell us who you've spoken to, because I know Dan Trowis is one of them. Do you want to introduce that?
Yeah, exactly. The CEO of TWD Motorsports and the Cadillac F1 team, Dan Trowis and Graham Loudon, are both here this weekend. They've been at a number of races, but this is another one that they've headed out for the last couple of days. And I thought it was always apt to make sure we get an update, because it's rare, isn't it, that a new team comes onto the grid? We don't get that very often. And we don't get to speak to them every day of every race weekend. So every couple of weeks, it's nice to get an update. So, I called up Dan. So I've got Dan Towers with me, and Dan, you've been at a lot of races. You're making a lot of announcements. The latest one before this weekend in Singapore was revolving around the simulator drivers you're using at the Cadillac F1 team. Simon Pagenaud involved in there, Pietro Fittipaldi, and Charlie Eastwood, I think. Any other names I've missed?
Nope, that's it.
And what's it been like? I guess that's been happening behind the scenes that we haven't seen for a while.
Yeah, it's been happening behind the scenes for a while. I think we've had some of these simulation race weekends where all the team is together. We've got the team in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got the team in Silverstone, and there's a driver in the sim who's participating in a full race weekend. And in some cases it was Pietro, some cases it was Simon. And so they've been working with us for a while. Charlie as well, doing a great job. And so it's good to have their names out there. We're very proud to have them involved in our project.
How fun is it? Do you go and see some of this work going on and like simulating a race weekend, or are you doing it kind of following it from the tracks here?
A little bit of both. I think sometimes it's, I'm away, and sometimes I'm there while it's happening, and it's absolutely fascinating to be behind the scenes, behind the curtain, watching all these pieces come together. It's such a great group. There's a great energy in the team with all these people coming together to build this first ever Cadillac F1 team.
Does it feel like it's getting closer? Because, I guess we see you working around the paddock, doing meetings, talking to people. That looks quite familiar now, seeing you guys here. But behind the scenes is the stuff we're not seeing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's starting to get real each and every week, as more and more people, join the team, as the car progresses further, certain pieces start to go to homologation, all those kind of things, big words like that, but that just means we're getting close. Things are coming together of what that car is going to look like when it hits the track.
Now, we're here in Singapore, nightfall, bit of rain as well, but 2 weeks' time we're going to be in Austin. Big race, North American race, Vegas to come as well. Any big plans for Cadillac to do anything around these events?
We'll start to have a presence at each of these races, maybe even a little bit more, in Vegas. We'd love, the American races. This Singapore race is so important. It's great to be here. What an important race in the Asia market for Formula One. All the races are big. It's Formula One. But we can't wait to go to the U.S. Austin will be great, Vegas as well. So those are coming up.
And when's the first time we're going to see maybe the Cadillac F1 car look, livery or something you might be running? Because I know you were talking about maybe getting a TPC car at some stage.
Yeah, so there may be a TPC car running yet even next month. But in terms of the look and feel of the car, you're going to have to wait a little bit to know what that looks like. So sometime next year.
So TPC next month, though? Where's that going to be?
We're still working out the details of that. So, but more to come.
I will look out for it. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
I like the push, Chris. Keep him going. Put him on the spot. I like that. Very good stuff. I think one of the ideas.
Certain the way he said it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you please. Go ahead.
Tell you what, this is the perfect delay we've got right now as I run around the grid. But yeah, I wasn't actually certain for sure that they had. That he was saying that they did have the TPC car. So I was like, right, I'm going to go in and make sure that that's what you're saying. So hopefully at some point will tell us.
And that would be what? What would it be? It's just,
so I wonder if it might be a Ferrari at some point.
Yeah.
So I've got James Vowles in front of me. He'll talk right now. James, thank you for giving us your time. It's tough 24 hours against the team. Qualified solidly yesterday, then both cars disqualified. Have you worked out what happened yet?
As always with these things, it's never one item. Yes, as you observed, it's did a really diligent job over the last 24 hours of making sure we dig not to one level, but really to root cause of how can we get this wrong. It's bitterly disappointing to have both cars disqualified. and simply undoes, I apologize for the drive this morning, it undoes weeks worth of their work preparation for one of the toughest events on the calendar. Short answer to this. The wing was legal apart from a very small region on one side. Now, irrespective, it's illegal. So it's more indicating that this wasn't a performance differentiator, it's a procedural mistake. And what I take from it is very straightforward. I've always said we are not championship level in all areas. We've definitely moved forward. We're definitely on the journey, but it's a...
Oh,
I think we might have lost him, but I tell you what, we got the gist of that, and I'm going to bring Bob in here. This is a bit of a disaster for Williams, you know, and I believe James Vowles. They're not fighting for a championship. There's no need for shenanigans, as I've said before. But you know, it was, and he said it was a mistake by the team, one side of the DRS.
Already now you can see the change in color of tarmac, indicating that rain is really evaporating. It is quite warm here, but it was heat out, whether it slicks or enters. Next, safety cars. I think Jon Massengale has the third most laps led in Singapore. So watch this space.
Yeah, still all to play for. Well, thank you for your time and good luck today.
Thank you very much.
Nice work, Chris. Yeah, in and out a bit.
Sorry,
but
everybody, if I did.
No, we got the gist of it. And I was just going to bring Bob in and say, you know, what are your thoughts on what James said? I believe him. I think it was a genuine mistake.
I do too. You know, it just shows you once again how fine the tolerances are.
Yeah.
You know, if the rules makers say you can have this much space when your DRS opens, but not a hair's breadth longer, that's what they mean. And if you get to scrutineering, which is, you know, a human process as well. So you often hear teams saying, well, we checked it before we came to the grid, and now we're, you know, you checked it and you found something different, and we have no alternative but to go with the official decision making. So I'm sure, at least I thought I could hear in James Vowles' voice there's extreme disappointment.
Yeah, of course.
You know, they thought they could get something done here, and they may yet, but you know, everything is pushed to the absolute limit in Formula One. There's no, you know, let's give it a couple of millimeters to the good just to make sure this doesn't happen. But, you know, it does.
You know, it could be an interesting race for Williams. You know, given the weather, given the potential of you know, people hitting walls and stuff. You know, there's always a chance of coming through, and it's happened before. I'm going to be interested to see what goes on between 10 and 20. Really impressed with Ollie Bierman. We haven't mentioned him yet, but he qualified very well for Haas and is showing good, especially at a time where people are looking at the rookies and looking to the future. We just heard from Cadillac there. I tell you what, Bob, while we've got a moment, we're going to take a break in a minute, but I just want your thoughts. Don't you, as somebody who's done this for 30 years like myself, find it interesting that Cadillac have named their sim drivers, and they are an ex-IndyCar and 500 winner who is effectively, you know, put out to pasture a little bit after his crash. You've got Alexander Sims, who is a hot shoe sports car driver, and you've got Eastwood, who is the same at the world level. Very interesting choices, but isn't that modern Formula One? We're not talking about reserve drivers, we're talking about sim drivers.
Right, exactly. And I think I could detect Dan Towers saying, you know, you want us to spread your net as wide as possible, just because it's contributing to a Formula One team and the performance of a Formula One operation doesn't mean that you can't be a sports car driver or, you know, some other discipline, because you might have a useful bit of information, or you might drive the sim differently and detect something that could become an issue later on. So, yeah, I think it's a smart thing to do. And I think Graham Loudon probably feels the same way.
Yeah, and I feel particularly pleased for Simon Pagenaud, fantastic champion in his time. He had that awful crash in Mid-Ohio, and I honestly don't think we're going to see him at the sharp end again, sadly. It's a bit like Dario. It's an accident that may well see the end of his competitive career. But to find him in a Formula One team, doing something so important, I think will be huge for him. It's a bit like Robert Wickens. He's found his way after a devastating crash, and Pagenaud, very different, obviously. But it's great to keep them involved, and that's the beauty and the spirit of this sport that we're all part of. Well, we're getting closer and closer to the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from the big man, Bob Varsha, on the grid. All right, we are back on live on the YouTube. Is Cadillac still sponsored by Palantir? I don't know. That's Jeff. That's Joe from Oyster Bay. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they. I don't think they're going to have. They were looking at 70 million for a title sponsor. They've got Adidas. They've got Tommy Hilfiger. Turn one commentator bingo 3 into 2 doesn't go. Yeah, that's a good point, Bill Richter. I wish I was commentating this race, because you're right. I would probably blow Bob's ears off on the first corner, because it's going to be a doozy. And it is an important corner, isn't it, Bob? It's a fair way to that first corner, but the first 3 corners at Singapore are a bit of a funnel.
Yeah, and because you have that long run down to the corner, you arrive there at a higher speed.
Yeah.
And of course, we all remember that year. Well, I don't remember the year, but I remember what happened when the 2 Ferraris of Vettel and Raikkonen and Max Verstappen all got involved in a kerfuffle down there in turn 1 and totally changed the complexion of the race.
Yeah, no question. And when Verstappen's on the front row of any Grand Prix, you have to think, he's the last of the late breakers. I really would be interested to get into the mind of George Russell, because he does know that. He does know the facts. He is the arch rival, if you will. They're not the best of mates, but that doesn't matter. They're good sportsmen. But I know if I were George Russell, I'd be thinking quite hard about what Max is going to do and how late I have to brake. Well, listen, I said you could do the grid, and I would like you to, if you have time. Bob Varsha, take us away.
Oh.
Let's come back to the show first. Yeah,
let's go back to the show.
Yeah, do you want me to do the Oracle? Okay, I'll do it first.
I'm Liam Lawson, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Now, in business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick 2. What if you could have all 3 at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since upgraded to the next generation of cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure database, application development, and AI needs. High performance environment, and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? Well, OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second, cheaper. OCI costs up to 50% less for complete, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report low latency, high bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. Welcome back to Speed City. Bob, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. 10 minutes to go. Let's talk about the grid. Why don't you take it away?
Okay, gather around, boys and girls. Here we go. Row 1, our pole sitter, George Russell and the Mercedes. Just when all eyes were on such as Verstappen, the McLarens, or the Ferraris, the still uncontracted Brit lays down not 1, but 2 laps, good enough for his 7th career pole, his 2nd of the season, and he won from that previous pole in Montreal. P2, Max Verstappen, his own self, from Red Bull. The team may be out of contention for the Constructors' title, but Max is still alive in the Drivers' Championship, coming off 2 straight victories. He might have grabbed pole, but for arguable impedance from Lando Norris on the Dutchman's final push lap. Row 2, P3, Oscar Piastri for McLaren, the championship leader, looking for redemption after a nightmare weekend a fortnight ago in Azerbaijan. He leads teammate Norris by 25 points and Verstappen by 69. P4, Kimi Antonelli for Mercedes. A great qualifying run by the Italian rookie who lost a fast lap late in Q1 for track limits before he laid down a clutch effort, fourth on the grid for the second straight race. Row 3, P5, Lando Norris for McLaren, still stung by his wasted opportunity in Baku. Last year's Singapore winner said he wasn't feeling the good vibes he did here back then. And it showed. McLaren can clinch their second straight Constructors' Championship by scoring just 13 points total today, or putting one car on the podium. P6, Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. Grateful to his fan support after having to put his beloved bulldog Roscoe to sleep last week. The four-time Singapore winner and his teammates simply could not find the speed once again this week. Row 4, P7, Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari, maybe the best qualifier in the sport. The Monegasque found the wall in qualifying, as did Russell and several others, so maybe that's the fast way around here. P8, Isaac Hadjar for Racing Bulls, turned 21 last Sunday. Another driver with something to prove after Baku, and he began the weekend with an impressive run into the top 10 for the 10th time in 2025. Row 5, P9, Ollie Behrman in the Haas delivered some shockingly quick early laps and made Q3 for the third time this season. He also talked a big game, so let's see what he can do today. P10, Fernando Alonso for Aston Martin led practice 1 on Friday, then slid down the order, as we've seen so often this season from Aston. Alonso won the very first Singapore Grand Prix way back in 2008 for Renault. So, anybody remember Crash Game? Yeah. Row 6, P11 is Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber. Like all the teams, the Hulk is wondering what's to come after nobody was able to do long runs because of all the red flags for contacts with the wall. P12, Liam Lawson for Racing Bulls. 2 crashes in practice Friday and Saturday made life difficult for the Kiwi, who did pretty well considering. I hope he bought dinner for the mechanics last night, because they had to put race cars together for him on 2 occasions. All of the following drivers behind Lawson moved up a place or 2 after scrutineering. Stand by for details on that. Row 7, Yuki Tsunoda is P13 for Red Bull. Frustrated he couldn't get his Pirelli tires to switch on in qualifying. The Japanese needs a string of consistent results to keep his seat. P14, Gabby Bortoleto for the Sauber team, outrun by his teammate Hülkenberg. Gabby has struggled with this unfamiliar track and was eliminated in Q1 for the first time since the British Grand Prix at Silverstone back in July. Row 8, P15, Lance Stroll and the other Aston Martin. Unlike teammate Alonso, Stroll found his car hard to handle, and his effort to push on his second hot lap led to a huge lockup. P16, Franco Colapinto in the Alpine. Happy with his car's improvement across the weekend, Franco is hoping for a race of attrition, and he may get one, saying maybe the Alpines could have finished farther up the grid in qualifying. Maybe? Row 9, P17, and this is where it gets weird. Esteban Ocon in the Haas. He was unhappy all day Saturday, raging about the car. He insisted that the crew reverse every tweak they made based on the Friday data. Now, P18, Pierre Gasly in the other Alpine. Another day, another issue for the Frenchman, this time a broken oil line that caused a shutdown of the engine. The 2026 Mercedes motors cannot arrive soon enough. Gasly will also make some changes out of Parc Fermé rules and will start from the pit lane. Row 10, well, row 10 was actually going to be the entire Williams team because Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, after qualifying 12th and 13th, both cars failed post-qualifying scrutineering with out-of-spec DRS openings. As Chris would say, that's a slam dunk DQ, lads. And they also made changes out of Parc Fermé for Albon's Williams, so he too will start from the pit lane. It's going to be an interesting race, folks.
Yeah, and we heard from Chris there. He was on the grid, and I think we've lost him for now, given that obviously there's a fair few phones going off there with some 300,000 people there. But he did get a chance to talk to some folks on the grid, including, if you like, the man of the moment, because they start pole position, and that, of course, is the Mercedes boss, Toto Wolff. Let's hear from him.
Got Toto Wolff here. Toto, going from pole. Was this unexpected? You've been so quick this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told us we are on pole in Singapore, that is would have been a bit of a long shot. But here we go. The car was great. George was great. Yeah.
Kimi was good too, but George alongside Max on the front row. It feels like both of them have nothing to lose today. How's this going to play out?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Max needs to win in order to keep his championship alive. George, we are not shooting for any championship glory here, so yeah, good opportunity.
All out attack?
Yeah, all out attack.
Good luck today.
Great interview, and I think Chris is still beetling about. Chris, what's the feel? What's the temperature, as it were, on the grid?
Sweaty, hot. In fact, I was running around trying to find some sort of connection during that time and get interviews as well, but it was packed down there. Absolutely packed. This is a glamorous race that people want to be part of. But there was real, I think tension for this start, actually. I think Toto Wolff's reveling in it because it's been a while since Mercedes were at the front like this. I think for Red Bull, though, they're aware that something could go wrong. And Zach Brown actually looks a little bit tense as well because McLaren could win the Constructors today, and that's going to be a lot of money for them. But at the same time, it could get cracked wide open in the Drivers' Championship.
All right. Well, listen, you also spoke to Lauren Mekies. Let's. Do you want to intro that?
Yeah, if it's ready to go, let's go with it because he's, like I said, just seems like he's a little bit nervy in the sense that Russell has nothing to lose either alongside Max. I've got Laurent Mekies here, and Laurent, you've got a place on the front row today, which was tough for Red Bull to achieve last year. Car looks better here, but how tough is it going to be to beat George Russell?
For sure, it's it's very, very difficult. I think George did a very good job. They are there on merit. He posted 2 very good laps in Q3. Max was probably at the same pace or very, very close to it. But we are behind George, just in front of the 2 McLarens. They are going to be fast again, so it's going to be a tough one where you have 4 or 5 cars that can win today.
Yeah, you're looking forward and looking back, I guess. But how do you win this race then? Where's it going to be won and lost, do you think?
I think we need to stay quite open. I think it's a race where there will be circumstances that we will need to interpret, and we need to stay quite open. I don't think a pre-fixed plan is going to work today.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was kind of a nervous Lauren Mekies. I've not heard him that nervous, but I think there is an anticipation because there's so much up in the air for today's race. 62 laps. It's always a tough race. It's a race that Red Bull haven't won, which makes it interesting. And we've already alluded to the fact that all the Red Bull drivers, except Max Verstappen, are kind of under the cosh a little bit in terms of who's going where. We've got rumours of Lindblad. He's had a Friday test. It's all out there. Bob, what are your thoughts? We're a couple of seconds away from the start of the race. Predictions?
Predictions. I am going to say Max Verstappen. Actually, I picked him yesterday. George Russell second, and oh boy, Oscar Piastri third.
Ooh.
Oh, Bob, I can't believe it. We've got the same prediction. So I'll mix it up.
Well, we're 2 very intelligent.
Reason. Yeah. We are very intelligent, extremely intelligent.
Come on, give us your prediction.
George. I will go for Antonelli in third.
So, George, Verstappen, Antonelli.
No, Verstappen to win, George second, Antonelli
Verstappen,
third.
George. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go for Piastri to win, Norris second, Verstappen third. How about that?
Ooh, Verstappen third. Wow.
Yeah.
Good day for McLaren.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Yeah, let's see if it pays off for him. Last thing, we've got 30 seconds. Weather, it looks to me, by looking at it, that we're not going to have any rain. It's going to be a dry start.
Yes, but like I said, wet curbs. So the track will be dry enough. They'll be on slicks. We might see a few soft tyre runners for that reason, actually, just for the crossover. But I'd be amazed if there's too many on hards.
Okay, then, that's it for our pre-show. Join us after the race for all the action to wrap it all up. Let's turn our attention now to the BBC as we take on the Singapore Grand Prix.